What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. Today we have a long discussion video about the Arsenal Divide mini update they pushed in with the Sister of Parvos mainline update like over a month ago at this point. The update came out July 6th, I believe it was. It's currently August 22nd. So that update's been out for over a month. The meta has been basically established at this point. It's pretty much just experimenting with guns, having some fun at this point. So we're going to talk about how that update went through, what it even was. Maybe you haven't been playing the game in a while and you're coming back. Take a look at this video, and we'll get into that. We're going to discuss it. I'm going to see how I feel if it was a successful implementation of gun buffs, and there was technically melee nerfs as well with this update. So make sure you're subbed to the channel and all that stuff. We have over 500 Warframe YouTube videos on the channel, and there will be more and more as time goes on. So the general gist of what was changed and added with the Arsenal Divide update, it was basically to make it so melee was not as dominant and guns were more appealing. We got these galvanized mods. These mods come from the Arbiters of Hexus arbitration store, for 20 Vitus Essence each, I believe it is. So we've got, for shotguns, increased projectile speed. And a lot of these mods, actually all of them, are on kill. They will give you increased stats on whatever they're already improving. So for example, we have the multi-shot mods, Galvanized Hell, Galvanized Diffusion, and Galvanized Chamber. These are going to be multi-shot, a very valuable stat for guns in Warframe. So at max stacks, if you kill like 4 or 5 enemies, you'll get 230% multi-shot for all these weapon types. So that's actually a big jump up from the normal versions, only giving you like half that value. You've also got these mods called Galvanized Shot, Galvanized Savvy, and Galvanized Aptitude. If you know what Condition Overload is for melees, where basically you get increased damage per stats affecting the enemy, that's basically Condition Overload, but for guns. So this potentially could give you lots of damage. But we'll talk about the good, bad, and the ugly parts of this update later, where there's definitely some big problems with this. You've also got Galvanized Crit Chance mods for shotguns and primaries. But these are not shotguns, pistols and primaries, but it's actually just pistols and rifles, hilariously. The shotguns kind of got gypped on the crit chance department here, but basically on headshot kill, you're going to be getting increased crit chance for both of these. It does not work on slash procs. So instead of a crit chance mod, shotguns got extended projectile flight speed and beam range, which is actually pretty good on weapons like the Phage and the Phantasma. Alright, so that's one of the parts of the updates. Remember, none of the actual gun stats specifically got changed. It was mostly just these new things being added. So if you didn't grind out this new stuff, literally nothing changed, guys. So we're going to search for the primary arcanes. We've got Primary Merciless. This one's going to give you increased damage on kill, blah, blah, blah. Primary Dexterity gives you increased damage on melee kills. That works for your primary. And Primary Deadhead giving you increased headshot multiplier and increased damage on headshot kill. These 3 arcanes are also on secondaries as well. And these primary ones can work on shotguns and rifles. They separated shotguns and rifles for the mods, but not for the arcanes. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. And something that indirectly was also changed is that they actually buffed the Crit Chance Corrupted mods, because, there's a lot of really bad Corrupted mods in this game. So they actually, I think it's, where's the critical one? Critical Accelerator. This mod used to be terrible for shotguns. This actually made crit shotguns a lot more viable, because they basically double the stats on this. So that's pretty nice. And now, basically, if you're running a crit shotgun, you basically always run this now. Critical Acceleration. All right, so that's what they changed. Let's talk about how it's actually implemented. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we're going to get some gameplay on the screen, and let's start out with the good stuff that happened with the, these new mods getting added. Because honestly, there is some good stuff here. There's definitely some stuff that I think is poorly implemented, and some maybe new long-standing problems, but we're going to look at some also poll results from some polls I put on the channel, and maybe not everyone thinks it's a problem, even though I kind of do. Alright, so it's the good stuff that happens with this update. I mean, let's just be straight up here. Guns are much better right now. Using primaries and secondaries now feels much better than before. Think about it. We're getting like double the multi-shot, over double the multi-shot in some situations. And, I mean, better crit chance because of those crit chance buffs. And Condition Overload for guns, when it actually works, it's definitely bugs still in some weapons. It's really, really nice. I mean, I've got videos on the channel of one-shotting level 10,000 enemies with primaries. I feel like you could have done that before if you used more buffing, but, it's quite, I mean, the Sporothrix is 1% crit chance, and you can one-shot level 10,000s with it. So that's really nice, and since you're getting that big chunk of damage from those arcanes, that's in an extra slot. You actually basically get an extra mod slot on your build, which a lot of times we're just using, the not condition overload. We're using either condition overload for primaries. I guess you could use both, or you're using a Bane of the faction mod, because those Bane faction mods, like let's say like Bane of the Grenier, Bane of the Corpus, and all that, those actually give you a huge bang for your buck because they're not the same as like a Serration or something like that. When it says 55% damage plus on there, it means 55% damage like after everything's said and done. So these kinds of mods, we actually have room for this now. So see, we used to be running like, let's say we'd run like point blank in one of these slots. Like, oh, well, I'm not going to run Galvanized Savvy. I'm going to run point blank in that slot because this mod didn't even exist. So we're getting 230% multi-shot there, basically double of what Hell's Chamber gave. And, this is like 40%, up to 80% damage per stats type of the enemy. That's going to be higher than Prime Point Blank quite easily. So, you have to free up your mod slot. If you don't want to run max damage, that's also like a slot for fire rates. Let's say you want to see Amalgam Shotgun Spaz, more fire rate, maybe some reload speed if you want to run that. You could even fit that on there. And maybe some more elementals. Maybe you're trying to get the most bang for your buck on a Galvanized Savvy, put a heat mod in there or something like that. Not like I would really recommend that, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, it gives you more flexibility on the builds, although the way that this game is played, it's either go big damage or go CC, I guess, or status procking for more damage on other stuff. So it's a very damage-focused sandbox in this game, which, it's not exactly a bad thing. I mean, it is a horde shooter, like, clear them out game, so, giving us more damage is a good thing, honestly. So that's really nice. That's basically the only positive I have, because, I mean, that's so clear and obvious. More damage, they're more fun. It makes it feel like, because they also tie this with a melee nerf, I'm using primaries more than ever, like a lot more than ever. And they deal really good damage if you build them right. But we'll get into the bad stuff now. I mean, you could call this bad. There's definitely bad parts to it. So getting into the bad stuff of this update, like I said earlier, if you didn't grind out all this stuff from the Steel Path and from arbitrations, they didn't change anything. They nerfed melees. They made Condition Overload give less damage per stack, and Blood Rush gives less damage per combo multiplier, or less crit chance per combo multiplier as well. So if you didn't grind out the new stuff, it's like nothing even happened. So that's pretty annoying, but maybe you're like, hey, it's a reason to actually do that stuff. It's a gateway into getting into the high level missions that a lot of people like to run. You start in arbitrations, which might be, you could maybe call that easier than the Steel Path because they're less bullet spongy. And then you move into the Steel Path, you get the Steel Essence from Acolytes to buy the Arcanes, and then it lets you get in those Arcanes to like one shot level 10,000 enemies maybe. But let's not forget as well, it's a giganto grind. Like it went from we're buffing guns to you're going to grind your butt off for like weeks. Because like I was showing those new mods. All of those are rank 10 mods. Takes like millions of credits, thousands and thousands of endo to max those out. And I mean, you're playing Warframe, so you're expected to grind stuff out. But, it's just like they drop like, 10 million credit grind on you out of nowhere when they said they're going to be buffing guns. So I consider that kind of a bad thing because like it feels like it was just like done to like make us grind more stuff out, and like they couldn't just give us the gun buffs like straight up. Like they couldn't just be like, all right, Super Vandal, we're gonna give it 5% more crit chance. We're gonna give it 3% more multi shot or something like that. They didn't actually buff the guns. They gave us new stuff to grind out to make the guns feel better. And we're gonna talk about Super Vandal type weapons in a little second here. So to unlock all these buffs, you gotta grind your butt off, and it's lots of. Here's the problem. Even if you buff, we'll talk about Super Vandal. So let's talk about the Super Vandal specifically. Even if they buff the Super Vandal to have like 500% multi-shot, 200% crit chance, why would I use that over the stuff you're seeing in the gameplay footage right here? I have an AoE Death Cannon, the Trumna, and it's an assault rifle, but it's got also AoE on it. We're not using the Trumna for I'm not using it for the generic assault rifle mode right now. I'm using it for the explosion shot of doom that one-shots the entire area. AoE versus single target is a new problem they have brought upon themselves with this. I talked about this before the update came out. I said, all right, well, I'm using my Kuva Karak. It's a generic assault rifle. Why would I ever use this? Now, you might say, well, it's because nullifiers. Nullifiers need multi-shots to break their shields, and I'd say nullifiers are one of the only reasons that generic assault rifles should exist in this game currently. And the funny part is, why would I use that when I have the Trumna? It's an assault rifle and an explosion gun at the same time. And then we look at things like the Kuva Tsar, the Kuva Brahma, the biggest hitters in this game. Explosion, like good crit stats, good status chance. Why would I use an assault rifle over this ever? I mean, I'm blowing up everything with this, and it kind of just makes those guns like the Prisma Grakata, the Kuva Karak, Super Vandal just a joke. This thing has a, how big is this radius on this explosion? 11.62 with Prime Firestorm. That's big. That's a big explosion right there. And we're looking at 75% crit chance, 6.9 multiplier. Nice. And we've got viral and hunter munitions. This scales hilariously well. It's really, really strong. And look at that. We're not even using the galvanized aptitude mod because this is currently broken on the Kuva Tsar. It does not work properly. So we're hitting like million damage in a big area while we could use something like the Kuva Karak, like I said. And this is going to be taking time on target, not killing them with one bullet most of the time. And, you know, you got to reload it. It's just not even comparable. I've got a really good Riven, too. We've got 4.6 multiplier. Now, keep in mind, we're not really running crit damage maxed out here. You're not going to ever kill the amount of enemies that you kill with the Kuva Karak versus the Kuva Tsar. And you know what? Apparently you guys think that's fine, because I actually did a poll on my channel, because, I mean, AoE stuff is the meta. Do you like the AoE spam for primary metas in Warframe? 39% of the 10,000 people that voted said yes. So people like it. Maybe it's not a problem. I just feel like that there's no real place for these generic full assault rifles, and maybe DE should consider making new types of Eximus units, or just, you know, like, it honestly is something that would require Warframe too, but I feel like making new Eximus units that, like, diminish AoE explosions, maybe only on the steel path, make them like the steel Eximus. When the steel Eximus spawns, enemies in the area have, like, 80%, 90% damage reduction to AoE explosions and maybe even abilities. Because think about it. I mean, Eximus units in this game, I'm killing this horde of enemies right here. I can't even tell there's an Eximus in there. Eximus units in this game honestly need a gigantic rework. Eximus is a gigantic joke. And like they just are normal enemies to most people. So they should probably do an Eximus rework. That might be a way to get it where AoE versus single target actually matters. The only place that single target actually matters is basically Eidolon fights, I guess Profit Taker kind of, and then Disruption. Disruption's that game mode where like the big explodey dude spawns and tries to destroy the console. That's basically it. And at the same time, you could probably just use melee to kill that guy. You're definitely not going to be using the Prisma Grakata, the Kuva Karak against that Demolus. I mean, it's basically burst damage what you want against that guy. There's an Eximus right there. Took 2 bullets just like everyone else. So, yeah, something like that could be great. We could also go even further, and the fact that all this damage we're using, it's basically going to be 3 or 4 different types of damage. Actually, no, we'll get that in the ugly section, because the bad is already like, well, it might not be bad to everyone, but the ugly, this is the stuff that's unacceptable. Okay, so we already went over how we have condition overload for guns. Well, they've tried to fix this in bug fixes twice now. That galvanized condition overload mod for guns, they've tried to fix it twice, and it's still not working on a bunch of stuff. And the funny thing is, I'm getting discouraged of even testing stuff out with their stupid mods they haven't fixed twice now. It's like, okay, well, to test this, I need to not use viral, I need to not use corrosive, I need to not use heat, all this stuff that increases damage, and I also need to not use try not to get a headshot, try not to get AoE damage, fall off, all this stuff. It feels like a gigantic pain in the butt. Oh, by the way, the galvanized mods only have, you get the stacks off of kills, so you need to make sure you don't kill an enemy. It's really annoying to test them, and I feel like they're trying to make us do their job, or they just are incompetent at actually fixing them in the first place. And it's really frustrating. It's like, okay, well, we found the Catch Moon didn't work. You fixed that hilariously because the Catch Moon's guaranteed impact proc is actually a multiplicative bonus now, so they couldn't fix that properly. It's broken beyond belief, hilariously. It's a bug, though, so don't expect it to stick around for too long. And it's like, random weapons just don't work. And there doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason to it. The Proboscis Cernos, tentacles don't work with galvanized CO, the explosion does. Why? I have no idea. Kuva Tsar doesn't work with it. Kuva Ogress, kind of hard to tell. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Kuvas, some of these weapons, it's really hard to test this stuff out on, and they've tried to fix it twice. People are getting discouraged from even trying to help you out, DE, because you keep pushing out hot fixes that aren't properly fixing the stuff. So, while we're on the topic of status effects on enemies, this update puts a big spotlight on how puncture and impact damage are terrible compared to slash. A lot of the times, you're using like 3 or 4 different types of damage. You're using viral, corrosive, slash, or heat. Some people still like gas damage. I think gas damage is terrible, and I would hope that they fix it someday. I guess toxin, technically they're fighting corpus. So that's it. Like I feel like they actually admitted that it's a problem too, because they've made it where you're actually getting mods like hemorrhage and internal bleeding, where it's a band-aid fix. Impact becomes slash. Impact procs become slash damage. They know impact is terrible. Do you even know what impact procs do? They make enemies more vulnerable to paras on finishers. Like, that's hilarious right there. No one's using paras on finishers. Like, they're slow. It's a breakaway from the combat that doesn't even do anything important for you. And they did add those new mods, Power Drain, I think it's called, and like the one that revives your pets. But it's so nichely like useless. It's not worth using really. Power Drain might be nichely useful if you're like using a Wisp or something like that for some motes. But overall, no one's using Power Drain, even though I tried to make it work. It's just doing paras on finishers enemies. They die before I can even get over there and stab them with a lot of the time. Because you don't want to make your weapon entirely focused on impact damage. You want to make it like, actually kill stuff. So I'm usually utilizing the mods they gave us, Hemorrhage, to make slash procs and impact procs. They'll bleed out by the time I get over there. So yeah, that's pretty bad. Do you know what a puncture proc does? They need to make a status rework. We've got the guns feeling better. Definitely, I'm enjoying the guns. Guns can kill stuff reliably if you got all the stuff you grinded out. But they need to make these stats effects better. I want to... Puncture procs, what they currently do, they make the enemy deal 25% less damage to you for 6 seconds, stacking up to 75% reduced damage from that enemy at 10 procs. That's pretty bad, like honestly. Like, no one's using puncture procs. And a lot of times, these generic full-auto assault rifles and stuff, they deal puncture damage, like predominantly. Like, puncture is a very high weighting on a lot of these assault rifle guns, and like guns aren't that good. So I'd say, let's go and just use stuff that's already in the game. Go to Railjack, and in Railjack, do you know what the stats effect for puncture does? Well, it actually reduces enemy armor and shields. So let's just, take what it's doing in Railjack and put it in the normal missions. Make it so puncture procs are actually good. I mean, that would be great. Because they're not going to compete with Slash. Slash is a damage over time that ignores armor and, hits really hard. So they're not going to compete with Slash. Make it do something that, maybe complements Slash. Or can make a build revolved around fully removing enemy armor with corrosive, heat, and puncture. Something that you can consider. Impact, I feel like they just want to let that be bad. So let's not even bother with impact right now. Like, built-in shattering impact would be fine. But think about it. Like, the way I'm talking about this, it's either damage over time, debuffing enemies, and impact is technically CC, but you just, for missions like survival, like I'm in right now, CC is useless. I mean, maybe if you're just camping and like waiting for the enemies to run to your CC, that's kind of useful, but no, we need debuffing, we need damage over time. That's what the sandbox in this game is. It's a horde shooter, and the amount of like single target enemies we need is very limited. There's the one acolyte per 5 minutes right there. That's my only single target enemy I care about in these 5 minutes, and it's back to mindless horde killing. So that's what I'm saying. Steel Eximus could be a good idea. It doesn't need to be on the normal missions, because that might be too hard for normal players. Although normal players aren't really using AoE stuff that much. I mean like newer players aren't really using AoE as much. So yeah, I feel like they need to get their stuff together, fix these galvanized mods, do a status rework to go hand in hand with what we got here, and I think it'd be overall pretty good. I mean, a lot of people were saying like, oh, melee will be killed. We did a poll. Are you still using melee since the Sister Parvos update? Because at this time I was using like Kuvazar, Spore Lacer, Vermisplicer all the time, and wasn't really using melee. A lot of people still are using melee. So think about it. Look at these poll results for both of these. We've got, I use melee just as much as before, and I like the AoE spam meta. Is there any problem here? It doesn't look like there's any problem here, at least from those poll results. So, not everyone is voting my polls. There's 10,000 on the first one, and about 7.2 thousand or something like that on the second one. So that's not everyone that plays the game. I mean, and everyone plays the game different. Maybe you do like single target assault rifles, even though I feel like they have no place here. They basically have anti-nullifier stuff. But at the same time, I could use my Kuva Nucor, I could use my Kuva Cycron, I could use my melee even against nullifier bubbles. I feel like we need more mechanics and gameplay situations where single target is important. My ideal situation for this game is like, you are actually making tactical choices on your primary and your secondary and your melee when you go into these missions. So let's say, here's my ideal situation right here. Okay, so I'm going into a high-level survival mission. I'm like, okay, I'm planning to like go pretty high level. I'm going to go like level 1,000 or whatever. I should definitely have a weapon for every situation. So my primary weapon, this is for the main damage source. I'm killing all these hordes of enemies. That's my multi-target AoE gun. I've got a single-target hard-hitting gun or a high fire rate gun if my primary can serve a single target like fast firing focus as well. So I've got let's say I have the Aximati Prime. This is for killing nullifiers. This is for dealing with the enemy that has special armor that requires lots of bullets really quickly. The Steel Eximus maybe. The Steel Eximus, AoE is not going to work on him. You need fast firing stuff to deal with his armor that like rebuilds quickly over time. He's got steel armor, rebuilds really quickly. You need to shoot out lots of bullets really fast on him. Or maybe make it a different thing where it's like precision is required. You phone a prime. You need to hit him in the left shoulder, and it would be like randomized every time he spawns. Like, okay, this one you need to shoot him in the left shoulder to break his armor and make him actually damageable. Or maybe it's the right shoulder this time, or something like that. That's what I want a loadout where every situation needs to be covered. Multi-target, single target, melee's kind of whatever, because melees are just basically multi-target all the time. But you see what I'm saying here. So I feel like right now it's just AoE or bust. I mean, even like with the secondaries we're using, in the game of Woods right here, Kuva Cycron, or Tenant Cycron, whatever it's called, it's a multi-target gun. Why would I ever use the Euphona Prime here, you know? And for Disruption, like I said, that's the place you could use single target technically, but at the same time you could just use melee as well, and it's going to deal so many slash procs, it's not even a matter at all. So either way, guys, hopefully you found this video helpful. It was more of a discussion. Like, I'd say overall the biggest thing is just like, you know, primary is still good, and I might be diminishing how important that actually is because no one was really using them before. But there's definitely even more problems. I mean, like, we didn't even talk about heavy Archwing guns and how useless those are compared to these big buffs we have on primaries now. So maybe they should make some new Archwing gun mods while they're at it. And yeah, that's me basically it. I know I forgot some stuff here. If there's anything I forgot that you guys think that I should have talked about here, or things that are bothering you about this update that weren't properly handled, let me know in the comments down below. I will be reading them, responding to them as well. Yeah, I hope that you guys found it helpful. I'll see you on Twitch later tonight as well. Going to be doing a live stream. And yeah, more videos every day, guys. Take it easy. Peace.